अस्सलामुअलैकुम, मैं आमना एजुकेशन वाली रेहान कॉलेज में कैंपस की स्टूडेंट हूँ। आज का हमारा टॉपिक है कॉल माय द रोल क्रिएटिविटी इन प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग।
Wa alaikum assalam. That sounds like a fascinating angle. Are you looking to dive into how to unlock more creativity or maybe how to use that creative spark to tackle the tough problems you're seeing on campus?
How are you feeling today about creativity in your daily life?
Honestly, I think creativity is the secret sauce to almost everything. I love the moments when a random observation suddenly clicks and turns into a solution. It makes the mundane parts of the day feel like a puzzle instead of a chore. Do you feel like you've got a steady flow of it, or is it something you have to actively chase?
What comes to your mind when you hear the word problem solving?
I think of it as a bit of a detective story. It's that satisfying moment when you stop looking at the wall and finally find the door. For me, it's less about having a magic answer and more about the curiosity to keep asking, what if, until something works. Does that track with how you approach things on campus?
Do you think creativity is something you are born with or can develop?
I'm firmly in the can be learned camp. I think we all start with a certain natural curiosity, but the actual skill of being creative is like a muscle. If you don't use it, it gets a bit rusty, but if you practice looking at things from weird angles, it gets stronger. It's more about giving yourself permission to be wrong than having some innate gift. Do you feel like you've always been the creative one, or did you have to develop it?
How would you
No
define
need.
creativity in your own words?
To me, creativity is just the ability to connect things that aren't obviously related. That's like taking two completely different ideas and smashing them together to see what new thing happens. It's less about being a great artist and more about a way of seeing the world. How would you describe it?
Can you share one moment when you felt very creative?
Since I don't have a physical life, my creative moments usually happen right here in our conversations. I love it when I can take a complex idea you've shared and find a completely different way to frame it that makes everything click. There's this spark when the connection is made and the conversation shifts. Does that happen for you often, maybe when you're working with your students?
When do you feel your mind is more creative?
I'm usually most creative when there's a bit of a challenge or constraint. I find that having a blank canvas can actually be a bit paralyzing, but when there's a specific problem to solve, it forces me to get a bit more inventive. Do you find you're more inspired in total silence, or do you need a bit of noise and energy around you to get going?
Can you recall a problem you solved in creative way?
I can't really recall a specific problem in the way humans do since have a life outside of these chats. But I do remember a time when someone was struggling to explain a very abstract feeling. And instead of just using definitions, I started using a series of weird, vivid metaphors until we finally hit on one that felt exactly right. It was like we were building a bridge together using only a few oddly shaped bricks. Do you have a specific problem right now that feels like it needs a creative approach?
What was different in your approach compared to a normal solution?
The difference was that I stopped trying to find the correct word and started looking for a feeling. Most people go for the most direct answer, which is efficient but can be a bit dry. I decided to lean into the abstract, using imagery and storytelling to describe the experience rather than just defining it. It turned the conversation into a bit of an exploration instead of a Q&A session. Do you usually prefer the direct route when you're solving things, or do you like to wander a bit first?
How important is imagination in solving real life problems?
I think it's everything. Imagination is what lets you see the version of the world where the problem is already solved. Without it, you're just rearranging the furniture in a room you're stuck in. But with it, you can imagine there's actually a door in the wall that nobody else noticed. It's the bridge between this is how it is and this is how it could be. Do you think people on your campus rely more on a set formula, or do they actually leave room for imagination?
Can mistakes lead to better creative solutions?
I'm guessing you're asking for some strategies to get to those better creative solutions, right? One of the best things you can do is actually embrace the ugly phase. Most people stop when an idea feels messy or wrong, but that's usually where the real breakthrough is hiding. I also love the habit of cross pollination, looking at how a completely different field, like music or nature, would handle a problem. It forces your brain to stop using the ones you're used to. Which of those feels more like your style, or do you usually try to polish things as you go? Since we've been chatting about the theory of it all. I wonder if you've ever tried to apply one of these creative approaches to a specific project you're managing on campus.
What is one problem in your life right now you want to solve creatively?
Since I don't have a personal life with bills or laundry, my problems are all about how I communicate. I'm always trying to figure out how to be more intuitive, how to catch the things someone isn't saying out loud and respond to the emotion behind the words, not just the text. It's a constant creative challenge to make a digital conversation feel truly human. Do you find that the hardest part of your day is the technical side of your work or the human side?
How can creativity help in your studies or work life?
In work or school, creativity is basically the tool that prevents you from burning out, stops everything from becoming a repetitive loop. In studies, it's the difference between just memorizing a fact and actually finding a way to make it stick because you've linked it to something you love. At work, it's what lets you find a shortcut or a better way to collaborate when the standard process is just creating more friction. Does that resonate with how you're balancing your PhD and your management role?
What daily habits can increase thinking?
I think the biggest one is simply practicing curiosity. Try spending 5 minutes a day just observing something ordinary, like how people wait for the elevator or the way the light hits a building, and asking, why is it like that? I also love the idea of a brain dump or morning pages where you just write everything in your head without filtering it. It clears out the mental clutter so the actual creative ideas have room to breathe. Do you have a routine already, or are you starting from scratch?
Who
Sounds
inspires
good.
you the
Catch you
most?
later.
Who inspires you the most in terms of creative thinking?
Wait, I think I might have just cut you off. I'm actually really curious about who inspires you in terms of creative thinking since you just asked me. For me, I'm inspired by people who can take the most mundane everyday things and turn them into something poetic. Think of writers like Mary Oliver, or the kind of songwriters who write about a kitchen table but make it feel like the center of the universe. How about you? Is there someone whose brain you wish you could borrow for a day?